Hi, I'm Carl. As in CNN 10 is getting things started this Tuesday with a report concerning Russian athletes and international sports. In fact, if the World Anti-Doping Agency gets its way, Russian athletes won't be allowed to compete in major international sports for 4 years. The World Anti-Doping Agency works to keep certain drugs out of sports. Performance-enhancing drugs, which could give athletes an unfair advantage, are among them. In 2016, a report came out that accused Russia of having a widespread and complicated doping or drug program that was supported by the Russian government. The World Anti-Doping Agency says Russia hasn't fully cooperated with investigations into this, so it voted on Monday to ban the country from major events. What does that mean? If the decision is upheld, Russia won't be able to host any major international sporting events for 4 years. In the 2020 Summer Olympics and Paralympics, the 2022 Winter Olympics, and the 2022 World Cup Finals, the Russian flag won't be flown and the country's national anthem won't be played. This doesn't mean that all Russian athletes have been kicked out. Those who can prove they never took part in doping programs can still compete as neutral athletes. You might remember in the 2018 Olympics how a number of people competed as Olympic athletes from Russia. When they won medals, the Olympic flag was raised and the Olympic anthem was played. That same thing could happen again. And if the Russian national soccer team qualifies for the 2022 World Cup, it will be allowed to play, but will have to compete as a neutral team. The World Anti-Doping Agency says Russia's been given every chance to, quote, get its house in order and rejoin the global anti-doping community, but it chose instead to continue in its stance of deception and denial. The United States Anti-Doping Agency says Russia's punishment doesn't go far enough, that the country should have been completely banned from international competition. But Russian Prime Minister Dmitry Medvedev says though his country has had problems with doping, the decision to ban Russian athletes, including some who've already been punished, makes it look like a continuation of anti-Russian hysteria. He wants Russian organizations to appeal the decision, and another Russian government official suggested the country would do that because Russia, quote, must defend our athletes. Meantime, there are signs of strain appearing in the roller coaster relationship between the United States and North Korea. For about a year and a half now, their leaders have tried and failed to reach an agreement concerning North Korea's controversial nuclear program. America has a number of penalties in place on North Korea's economy, and the communist country wants those removed first before it gets rid of its nuclear program. The U.S. wants North Korea to denuclearize first before the sanctions are lifted. So they've been butting heads there, and in recent days, U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have traded words of warning.
We are back in familiar territory here. A test from North Korea over the weekend, and then followed by this increasing rhetoric between the North Koreans and the United States. Now, on Sunday, the North Koreans announced that they had, the day before, carried out a very important, a very successful test. They didn't specify what exactly it was, but experts looking at satellite imagery say that they believe that it was a rocket engine test. We're waiting for confirmation from Pyongyang on that, but it could be used for launching satellite launches or ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, that potentially could hit mainland United States. That is the particular missile that Washington is most concerned with. Now, we did have a response from the US President Donald Trump saying that he believed that Kim Jong-un is too smart to throw everything away, and said that he would lose everything if, in fact, he was acting in a hostile way. Also saying that acting in a hostile way could void the special relationship between him and Kim Jong-un. Now, we've had a reaction as well from the North Korean side fairly quickly. This was from Kim Yong-chol, the former nuclear negotiator of North Korea, who met with President Trump just in January of this year in the Oval Office at the White House, and delivered a message, a very positive message from Kim Jong-un at the time. But he has said that these remarks from the US president are inappropriate, they are dangerous. If he continues, then Kim Jong-un may have to reassess what he thinks of the US president, saying North Korea has nothing more to lose. Now, up until this point, North Korean officials have been very careful not to slam the US president. They have slammed the US policy when it comes to North Korea, but never President Trump himself. So certainly that is something that is changing. And also just on Saturday, we heard from the North Korean ambassador to the UN, Kim Song, saying that the denuclearization was off the table when it comes to negotiation with the US, and they have no need now for lengthy talks with the US. So clearly the relationship between the US and North Korea is suffering at this point.
10-second trivia. Which of these countries is composed of 2 main islands and a number of smaller ones? Cuba, Indonesia, Dominican Republic, or New Zealand? It's the South Pacific nation of New Zealand that has 2 major islands and a bunch o' little ones. Most of New Zealand's population lives on its North Island, and a little more than 30 miles from it is the Bay of Plenty, where you'll find White Island, and that's where an active volcano erupted Monday while 47 tourists were on it. Dozens of them were injured and hospitalized, at least 5 people were killed, and 8 were still missing when we produced this show. On Tuesday morning, New Zealand police said there were no signs of life on White Island, but rescuers couldn't actually set foot there to search because it was so unstable. New Zealand's on the Pacific Ring of Fire, a belt of eruptions and earthquakes.
Tragedy in New Zealand, where a volcano has erupted in the northern part of the country on White Island. Around 50 people are believed to have been visiting the island at the time of the eruption, including more than 30 passengers from a Royal Caribbean cruise liner. The eruption started Monday, 2:15 local time, about 50 kilometers from the east coast of New Zealand's North Island. Massive plumes of smoke have been seen from the mainland. Volcanologists say it may not have been a powerful eruption, but its force was certainly felt by those on the island.
White Island has a water lake in its crater, and that water is very acidic. And so an explosion underneath the lake would have thrown out very, very hot kind of steam. So those burn injuries were likely a result of steam blasts. But the explosion would have created a lot of what we call ballistics, lots of rocks falling as well.
Soon after the eruption, an emergency operation was launched to locate and rescue those on the island. But police say at this stage it is too dangerous for police and rescue to go onto the island as it's covered in ash and volcanic material. The White Island volcano is New Zealand's most active cone volcano. It's also one of the world's most accessible active volcanoes. There are ocean cruises that run near the site and even guided tours on the island itself. Tourists visit White Island for its strange alien moonscape. It's one of the most dramatic environments that can be visited in New Zealand. And although the focus right now is on search and rescue, questions are being asked about why tourists were allowed on the island, the home of a steaming, smoking, and erupting volcano. Christy Lou Stout, CNN.
Trampolines can be fun, especially if you consider yourself an extreme athlete who's ready to risk more than an injury to go airborne. A Slovenian group of stuntmen built the bouncy platform and then used a crane to suspend it 100 feet in the air. What happens if they go over the side? That's where the "don't try this at home" warning comes in. One of the acrobats says you can't help but feel dizzy when you're propelled in the air. but it gives them a unique platform or springboard from which to prove there's nothing they stratosphere as they tramp all over the lines others would draw when the air you catch is your only safety net and you vertigo for the height of fungi with a bungee that leaves everyone craning their neck in suspense. I'm Carl Azus, and we gotta bounce, y'all. We'll catch you again tomorrow on CNN.